from rags to riches. 10 self-made billionaire success stories. Imagine sleeping on a friend's couch at 28, with nothing but a borrowed laptop and a dream that everyone calls impossible. Picture washing dishes in a restaurant, while sketching business plans on napkins during your break. Envision being told no by 76 investors, before finally getting that one. Yes, that would change everything forever. These weren't just temporary setbacks for 10 extraordinary individuals. These were the defining moments that separated the dreamers from the builders, the talkers from the doers. They're the architects of modern commerce, the quiet revolutionaries who turned garage experiments into global empires, and the visionaries who now influence how billions of people work, shop, connect, and dream. In the next 25 minutes, we're not just counting down the world's most inspiring self-made fortunes. We're dissecting the pivotal moments, the audacious decisions, and the relentless grit that created them. These aren't fairy tales. They're blueprints for anyone bold enough to build something from nothing. And trust, may you'll want to stay until the very end, because our number one billionaire started by literally dumpster diving for computer parts, and today runs a company worth more than the GDP of most countries. 10. Howard Schultz. Starbucks. $4.1 billion. Picture this. A 7-year-old boy watching his father break down in their cramped Brooklyn apartment, not from sadness, but from the crushing weight of a broken ankle that meant no work, no income, and no hope. That boy was Howard Schultz, and that moment of witnessing his father as helplessness in the face of corporate indifference would fuel a lifelong mission to build a different kind of company. Howard grew up in the Canarsie housing projects, where dreams often died before they had a chance to breathe. His father drove trucks, sold diapers, worked any job that would pay. There was no safety net, no backup plan, just the daily grind of survival. Howard's escape came through sports. A football scholarship to Northern Michigan University, the first in his family to attend college. After graduation, Howard found himself selling coffee machines, a job that led him to a small Seattle coffee roastery called It had just 3 stores, but something about the passion of the founders and the ritual of coffee captivated him. He joined as marketing director in 1982, but his vision extended far beyond selling beans. A trip to Italy changed everything. Howard watched Italians gathering in coffee bars, not just for caffeine, but for a community, for connection, for a moment of shared humanity in their daily routine. He saw coffee not as a commodity, but as an experience. A third place between work and home. When the Starbucks founders rejected his vision for espresso bars, Howard didn't sulk. He acted. He left to start his own company, Il Giornale. In 1985, raising money was brutal. Investor after investor told him Americans would never pay premium prices for coffee. They were wrong. 2 years later, when Starbucks went up for sale, Howard seized his chance. He purchased the company for $3.8 million, using every connection and every ounce of conviction he possessed. From that moment, Starbucks was unjust about coffee. It was about creating a culture where employees, partners, as Howard insisted on calling them, had health insurance, stock options, and dignity. Today, Starbucks operates over 35,000 locations worldwide. Howard's net worth stands at $4.1 billion, but his real legacy lies in proving that a company can be profitable while putting people first. The boy from the projects who watched his father struggle created a company culture that ensures no employee faces what his family faced. Kasambilan Jankom, what's up? $15.2 billion at 16. Jankum was mopping floors at a grocery store in Mountain View, California, barely speaking English, with his mother working as a babysitter to keep their family afloat. They had arrived from Ukraine with virtually nothing, escaping a country where his father couldn't find work and anti-Semitism made life unbearable. Their apartment was sparse. No furniture, no luxuries, just survival. Jan learned English by watching TV and listening to customers at the grocery store. He taught himself programming on a computer at the local library, spending hours mastering code because it was free and it was his ticket to something better. After high school, Jan enrolled at San Jose State University, studying math and computer science while working at a grocery store to pay for tuition. But the call of Silicon Valley was too strong. He dropped out in his final year to join Yahoo as an infrastructure engineer in 1997, at age 21. For 9 years, Jan worked at Yahoo, watching the dot-com boom and bust, learning about building systems that could handle massive scale. When he left in 2007, he was burnt out, tired of corporate politics and bureaucracy. He took a year off, traveling, thinking, and applying unsuccessfully to work at Facebook, a rejection that would later prove ironic. The iPhone changed everything. Jan saw immediately that this device would revolutionize communication, but he was frustrated by the existing options. Text messaging was expensive, especially internationally, and the available apps were clunky and unreliable. In 2009, Jan teamed up with Brian Acton, a former Yahoo colleague, to create what their philosophy was radically simple. No ads, no gimmicks, just reliable messaging that worked across all platforms. They funded the company themselves, living frugally while pouring every dollar back into development. Growth was slow at first, but word of mouth was powerful. People loved the simplicity, the reliability, and the respect for privacy. By 2011, WhatsApp was handling 1 billion messages per day. By 2014, that number had grown to 50 billion. Then came the call that changed everything. Mark Zuckerberg, the same company that had rejected Jan's job application, wanted to acquire WhatsApp for $19 billion. The largest acquisition in tech history at the time. Jan signed the deal on the door of the welfare office, where he had once stood in line with his mother. It was his way of closing the circle, of honoring how far he had come. Today, with a net worth of $15.2 billion, Jan Koum proves that sometimes the most revolutionary ideas come from the simplest observation, that human connection should not be complicated or expensive. 8. Oprah Winfrey. Media empire $2.8 billion. Born to an unmarried teenage mother in rural Mississippi, Oprah Winfrey's childhood was a testament to survival. She wore dresses made from potato sacks, faced unspeakable abuse, and moved between relatives who saw her as more burden than blessing. By age 14, she had run away from home, become pregnant, and lost the baby shortly after birth. But in the midst of unimaginable hardship, Oprah discovered something that would change her life forever. Her voice, in church, at school, whenever she had the chance. She spoke with a power and authenticity that commanded attention. At the Societe, she won a beauty pageant that led to a radio job. And suddenly, the girl who had been silenced by trauma found her platform. College at Tennessee State University on a scholarship gave her structure. But Oprah was already building her career. B19, she was the youngest news anchor and first black female news anchor at Nashville's WLAC-TV. The traditional news format felt constraining, though she was too emotional, too personal, too invested in the human stories behind the headlines. The breakthrough came in 1984 when she took over a struggling morning show in Chicago called M Chicago. Within months, she had transformed it from last place to first, beating even Phil Donahue, the king of daytime television. Her secret wasn't polished perfection. It was raw authenticity. She talked about her weight struggles, her abuse, her failures with the same openness she brought to interviewing others. When the Oprah Winfrey Show launched in national syndication in 1986, it wasn't just a TV show. It became a cultural phenomenon. For 25 years, Oprah's living room became America's living room, a place where difficult conversations happened, where books became bestsellers with a single mention, and where transformation felt possible. But Oprah's genius wasn't just in front of the camera. She understood ownership. In 1988, she formed Harpo Productions' Oprah spelled backwards, taking control of her show and her destiny. While other celebrities were employees, Oprah became an entrepreneur, building an empire that included television, film, publishing, and eventually her own network. Her investments were equally strategic. An early stake in Weight Watchers alone was worth over $400 million at its peak. Her real estate portfolio spans multiple states. Her production company has created content that shapes cultural conversations. Today, with a net worth of $2.8 billion, Oprah represents something revolutionary. A black woman from poverty building not just wealth, but influence that transcends entertainment. She proved that authenticity isn't weakness. It's the most powerful business strategy of all. 7. Jack Ma, Alibaba, $35.4 billion. 12 rejections for basic jobs. 10 rejections from Harvard Business School, and one moment that would change not just his life, but the entire landscape of global commerce. Jack Ma's journey from English teacher to tech titan is a masterclass in turning setbacks into setups. Born in Hangzhou, China. In 1964, Jack Ma wasn't a natural student. He failed his university entrance exam twice before finally gaining admission to Hangzhou Normal University. Mathematics was his nemesis. He scored just 1 point out of 120 on the math portion of his college entrance exam. But what he lacked in numbers, he made up for in language and curiosity. After graduation, Jack became an English teacher, earning $12 per month. He was passionate about education and good at it, but he couldn't shake the feeling that bigger opportunities lay beyond the classroom. In 1995, during a trip to the United States, a friend showed him something called the Internet. Jack was fascinated but skeptical. When he searched for beer, he found results from Germany and the US, but nothing from China. He searched for China and found virtually no commercial information about his homeland. In that moment, he saw not just a gap, but a canyon-sized opportunity. Returning to China, Jack started his first internet company, China Yellow Pages, in 1995. It was a struggle. Most Chinese businesses didn't understand the internet, and many were suspicious of this enthusiastic English teacher trying to sell them on something they could untouch or see. The company achieved modest success but taught Jack valuable lessons about the Chinese market. In 1999, Jack gathered 17 friends in his apartment and pitched them on a new idea. An online marketplace that would connect Chinese manufacturers with buyers around the world. They called it Alibaba, inspired by the character who used the magic words, "Open Sesame," to unlock treasure. The early years were brutal. The dot-com crash made funding nearly impossible. Jack lived on instant noodles and slept in the office. His team worked without salaries for months. But Jack's vision was clear. If they could make it easy for small businesses to trade globally, they could unlock massive economic potential. The breakthrough came with Taobao, Alibaba's consumer marketplace, launched in 2003 to compete with eBay in China. While eBay charged listing fees, Taobao was free. While eBay was formal and structured, Taobao was social and interactive. Within 2 years, Taobao had driven eBay out of the Chinese market. When Alibaba went public on the New York Stock Exchange in 2014, it raised $25 billion in the largest IPO in history at the time. Jack Ma, the English teacher who couldn't pass a math test, had created a company worth more than $200 billion. Today, with a net worth of $35.4 billion, Jack Ma has largely stepped back from day-to-day operations to focus on education and philanthropy. His journey from rejection to revolution proves that sometimes the biggest opportunities are hidden in the gaps that everyone else overlooks. 6. Larry Ellison, Oracle, $117.3 billion. Abandoned by his unwed teenage mother at 9 months old, Larry Ellison grew up never knowing his birth father and rarely seeing his birth mother. Raised by his great-aunt and great-uncle on the south side of Chicago, he learned early that life doesn't hand you anything. You have to take it. His adoptive father, Louis Ellison, was a hard-working but unsuccessful businessman who constantly reminded Larry that he would never amount to anything. That harsh criticism might have broken a different child, but for Larry, he'd become a fuel. He would show the world, and his father, just how wrong they were. Larry was brilliant, but unfocused in school. He attended the University of Illinois for 2 years before dropping out when his adoptive mother died. He tried again at the University of Chicago, but left after 1 semester. At 22, he had no degree, no clear direction, and a burning desire to prove himself. In 1966, Larry moved to California with $1,200 and a used car. Silicon Valley was just beginning to emerge, and Larry found work as a programmer. He was talented but restless, jumping from job to job, always looking for something bigger, something that would let him build rather than just maintain. The breakthrough came in 1977, when Larry read a research paper by IBM's Edgar F. Codd about relational database management systems. Most programmers found the paper dry and theoretical, but Larry saw something revolutionary: a way to organize and retrieve data that could transform how businesses operated. With two partners, Larry founded software development laboratories, later renamed Oracle, in 1977 with $2,000 in startup capital. Their goal was ambitious: build the first commercially viable relational database management system. The challenge was enormous. They were competing against IBM, which had vastly more resources and credibility. But Larry had something IBM didn't: desperation and vision in equal measure. Oracle's first customer was the CIA, which needed a database system for a classified project. The $50,000 contract kept the company alive and gave them credibility to pursue other clients. Growth was explosive, but chaotic. Larry was a brilliant technologist, but a reckless businessman. Oracle went public in 1986, but by 1990, the company was on the brink of bankruptcy due to aggressive accounting practices and operational chaos. Many CEOs would have stepped aside, but Larry didn't build Oracle to hand it over to someone else. He brought in professional managers, cleaned up the company's practices, and refocused on product innovation. The bet paid off spectacularly. As businesses became increasingly dependent on data, Oracle became indispensable. The company that nearly died in 1990 became one of the most valuable software companies in the world. Today, with a net worth of $117.3 billion, Larry Ellison owns Hawaiian island Lanai, multiple mansions, and one of the world's most impressive art collections. But his greatest achievement isn't his wealth. It is proving that sometimes the people who do UNT fit in are the ones who change everything. Alright folks, since the video shouldn't be too long, the last top 5 you will see in the next video, so make sure to subscribe as you do not want to miss this.